When it comes to influence, persuasion, and effective communication, clarity is key. The clearer everyone is when they are communicating with someone, the better the communication cycle goes. So the clearer you are as a speaker and as a communicator, the better the communication cycle is going to go. And the clearer the other person is in their communication, the better the communication cycle is going to go. The problem is that many times the other person can become unclear in what they are saying, and if you don't stop them and address that issue, you are not going to be able to effectively communicate with them, and you're certainly not going to be able to influence and persuade them. So in today's video, what I'm going to show you is a very simple approach to getting the other person to be specific and clear in what they're saying so that you can ensure the communication goes smoothly. Hey guys, my name is Paul Macetta, and I am a researcher in the field of human communication. So if you like learning about human communication and things like human psychology, NLP, and hypnotic language, then go ahead and consider subscribing. So in today's video, I'm going to share something with you that comes from my book, The Black Book of Hypnotic Language Patterns. This technique is actually on page 45, and I'll put a link in the description below if you're interested in checking that out, where you're going to learn not only this technique, but 100 more just like it. So you get 101 in total in that book. So today's technique is based around something in NLP called the meta model. So there are two questioning models or two communication models in NLP. One of them is called the Milton model, which is based off of the communication style of Dr. Milton Erickson, who many, including myself, consider to be the greatest hypnotherapist that ever lived. And the way Milton Erickson would communicate with people, he would use very indirect, vague language to create rapport with people and to induce certain states of mind in them. And the inverse of that is something called the meta model, where you're moving away from vagueness and you're getting more specific and clear. Now, each one of them serves a specific purpose. There's a time and a place to use either one of them. I have other videos on the Milton model, which you can go find and learn more about that. I can certainly shoot more of them in the future if you're interested in them. But today we're talking about the meta model. And so the meta model is where you move away from vagueness and you get closer to specificity. So why is this important? This is important because, as I said in the beginning of this video, when it comes to effective communication on both sides, clarity is super important. Now, if you're here and you're watching this video and you're interested in this channel, it's safe to say you are interested in leveling up your communication skills. And your communication skills are pretty much all you have total control over. And so the clearer you are in your communication, the better your communication with other people is going to be. But that doesn't necessarily mean that other people are going to be clear. And this poses a problem, because if the other person is not clear in what they're saying and you don't address it, you could potentially wind up going in a completely different direction in this conversation, wasting everyone's time. And if your goal is to influence and persuade them and they're not clearly articulating how they feel or their outlook or their stance on something, it's going to be very difficult for you to influence or persuade them. So the point is this: the clearer you are, the better, and the clearer they are, the better. You have control over your clarity, and you have some control over their clarity if you use the meta model. So, what is the meta model, and when do you use it? The meta model is a way of asking questions to the other person that forces them to move away from vagueness and get very specific in what they are saying. You want to use this when somebody's communicating with you, but they're not being clear. Now, there are a multitude of reasons why somebody will not be clear when they're communicating with you, but one of the big ones is the use of generalizations. So we as human beings, as a means of preserving our cognitive resources, can have a habit of generalizing many things where we might be taking an isolated incident or an isolated experience and grouping it into a general category. This is especially true if there is an emotion tied to that experience. So for example, if I'm driving to my office and somebody cuts me off, I might say, people are completely careless when they drive. Or if someone backs into me, I might say, man, people just don't know how to drive. Or if I'm scrolling through TikTok and I see somebody accidentally light themselves on fire, doing some silly stunt in a kitchen, I might say, man, people are idiots, or something like that. But really what I'm doing is, obviously not all people are careless, not all people are bad drivers, and not all people are idiots. But what I'm doing is I am putting all people in that category in that moment. And again, this becomes even more reinforced when there's a strong emotion tied to it. Now again, this can be very problematic when you're communicating with people, because if they're constantly using generalizations, but you're not forcing them to get specific and clear on what they're saying, it's going to be very difficult for you to actually have a meaningful conversation with them. So the first step in making the meta model work is you need to have your radar up and be on the lookout for generalizations. So for example, let's say I was coaching someone on how to build their online business, and I'm teaching them how to differentiate themselves from all of the other thought leaders, experts, coaches, consultants, whatever it may be, and I'm explaining a concept to them, and they say, man, I feel really stuck when it comes to this. Well, them saying they feel stuck is a very vague statement. So what I would say is, can you explain to me specifically what you mean by you feel stuck? And then I would wait for the response. Now again, I used a specific word, which was the word specific. I said, can you tell me specifically what you mean? Now I'll wait to see if they give me a specific answer. If they don't give me a specific answer, I'm going to ask them again. So if they say, well, I'm feeling really stuck with this. And I say, okay, so let's say I'm teaching them about something called the unique mechanism. The unique mechanism is the secret sauce that makes whatever you do different and better than the way everybody else does it. And let's say I was teaching this concept to someone and they said, man, I'm really feeling stuck with this whole thing. The first thing I would say is, what specifically are you feeling stuck with? Right? Because they said this whole thing. If they said the unique mechanism, I would say, okay, so what specifically about the unique mechanism are you feeling stuck about? And again, I would just keep drilling down until they get ultra specific on what it is that they're getting stuck with. Then, once I've identified what they're getting stuck with, I would say, can you clarify why you feel this way? So now I'm getting clearer on why they are feeling stuck, right? So I had to kind of peel back 2 layers there. Number 1 is what exactly they are stuck on, and then number 2 is why they feel like they are getting stuck. Or again, if I was coaching someone and they said something like, I just don't think I could do this, I would ask them specifically, what exactly is it that you feel that you can't do? And why do you feel like you can't do it? What specifically is holding you back? And really, this is not that difficult. The most important part of this is having the radar up to recognize when somebody is being vague, unspecific, or using generalizations so that you could stop them in their tracks and immediately get them to start speaking clearly. Because I can't tell you how many times I've seen this in conversations. I'll be honest, I used to have a problem with this because as great of a communicator as I thought I was, a lot of times I would be a people pleaser, where in the communication, like, I don't want to be combative and I want to build rapport and I want the person to like me. And so what I'm doing is I'm allowing them to talk and talk and talk. And so part of being a great communicator is active listening. But I was just listening, and then picking up on vagueness and generalizations and never stopping the person and course correcting them and just letting them kind of go on and on and on. And what I realized is that that doesn't serve anybody. So I would rather have an effective, efficient communication where we get to where we need to get to than to be a people pleaser. So the goal, especially in the context of helping somebody, like in a coaching situation, my job is not to have them to like me. If they like me, that's a benefit. People do business with and are influenced and persuaded by people that they like. And so if I can get them to like me, that's great. But that's a secondary thing. My main goal is to actually help them and give them the value that they paid for. And if that means I got to drill down and course correct them and stop them from venturing off into other directions where they're not being clear about what they're saying, I'm going to do that, and you should too. And the meta model is a super effective way to do that. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up. It helps the algorithm. Leave a comment. Would love to know your feedback, questions, concerns about this. And if you like this type of content overall, consider subscribing because I put a lot of it out. And hit that bell notification so you get updated when I release more videos like this.